Okay, so in this video, we're gonna explain the advantages and disadvantages of the ones that we covered for the consensus algorithms on the last video. So this is an internal PowerPoint that I gave. I think it was like December 28th or something of 2018, where it just goes over the advantages and disadvantages of each one, and how we get to the decision. So, proof of stake, if we remember, you just basically stake your coins, and then it's in a lottery of who's getting the block, basically. So, advantages is anyone can participate no matter how many coins they have. This is the main advantage, and why people say that this is safer than proof of work. Is because it makes the 51% tax almost impossible. Since if you had 51% of the coin, you would do damage to yourself in trying to double spend. With proof of work, that's not the case, because if someone invests billions into computer systems, and then they have enough mining power to go mine a coin, Bitcoin, or you could try to do it, a lot less money on other coins. Your money, your investment is in your computing power, so you don't really care about the actual coin you're mining. So you don't really care if you have over 50%, you might, or 51%, you might try to double spend, and kind of change the outcome of the transactions and blocks. So that's a huge one for me, because I look at it as it's much more secure if it's a proof of stake variant, because um, if you have 51% of the coin, why would you try to damage your own investment? And then, a regular computer, a VPS, on a very varying degree, might need to be powerful, but it's obviously the computing power is going to be a lot less than a mining computer. Disadvantages, there's a lot. Forks can occur. This one's interesting, because Dan Larimer talks about it in one of the papers he's written, but it's called, basically, I forget what it's called. Nothing at stake is what it's called. Yeah. So um, that what that means is, you have to, with proof of work, you have to choose. Like if a coin's splitting, you would have to choose. Okay, blockchain A or blockchain B. You throw your hashing power on there, and then the larger hashing power blockchain would eventually win. Um, with proof of stake, what would happen is it's all virtual, so to speak, with coins. So if there's a split, then you can do staking on both of them at the same time. And if it splits again, you can do staking on all three of them at the same time. So you can kind of see that, because it behooves you, because you don't know which one is actually going to be converged and reorged back to the real one. So you want to, you want to stake on all the alt chains, basically, and that incentivizes the alt chains to continue. So it's kind of that's a very weird problem with proof of stake. And when I read about that, I understood that, I didn't really like that, because it just seems like it get out of hand or messy kind of easily. This is basically, the other one, the rich get richer. There's really no way around this one, because the more coin you have, the more coin you're gonna get, the more, which is then the more coin you're gonna have. So it kind of goes into that. There's no fixed limit of nodes. That can be a good thing or a bad thing, but in this case, we put it under a bad thing. And then, the other thing is, users have a small amount of coin, may never get a reward. So that's basically like saying, like, people who play the lottery, like take out, that would essentially be saying you took out all the small prizes and there was just a huge one, the huge, 10 million whatever lottery prize. Um, you could play your whole life and probably not win. So that, and you would never win anything else because it's just one prize. So that kind of comes up with this too. If you have like maybe like 5 coins, and everybody else has like 100,000 coins, then there's a good chance you may never produce a block. Um, so that was for that. And then we have master nodes. This was originally what we floated the idea when we put the disclaimer all over the place that we were going to do more research into this. But this is what we were thinking at first. It's the same thing as proof of stake, but it's basically just sectioning off things, saying that you need, X amount of coin to participate, and that you're limiting how many people are participating. But besides that, it's the exact same thing. So it's basically the same thing. You get the added benefit of only serious supporters of the Xcash can stake, which that's kind of true. It also stops people from, maybe, thinking they're staking and then staking 2 coins or something, and then they're like, well, why didn't I get anything? So it kind of stops that from happening too. Obviously, this creates the added things that pop up on the disadvantages are that it creates a centralized. It's centralized, of course, because you're limiting how many people can get in, and you're limiting it by money essentially because you have to buy these coins. Or you can mine them, but you'd have to have means or something to get that. So one thing I thought was really interesting, this one stood out to me when doing this, and that's why I'm pointing out just certain lines that stood out to me the most. This one is that you can't get rid of someone once you have a master node and you're in a master node system, unless they want to get rid of their own master node. So, if they're misbehaving, and they have the 100 million stake or whatever the heck it is, then there's not really a way you can block them, because so you can't vote them out. So once you got a node, you got a node. And then what I don't like about that also is it turns it into mining, the economics of it, so to speak, where once you have a node, if let's say 100 million Xcash, you had a node, then what would happen is, you would get maybe like, let's say you get like 1 million a month. Like you're not going to, unless you're planning on buying a second one, you're probably not. So you would just basically be dumping 1 million Xcash every month and, converting it into Bitcoin or something, or cash or something like that. So it kind of creates the mining thing where people are just constantly dumping the coin. We've seen that with most of these mineable coins. That's how it goes down. So yeah, I didn't really like that either. So then let's move on to delegated proof of stake. So we know this one pretty well. We're not going to talk about that, but the advantages. You still have the 51. I'm trying to see what comes up differently here. Differently is everybody's being voted for, so the community votes for the best node that represents. Kind of gives it an election type feel. Kind of gets people going. What I like about it is community has power. And this is partially why I wanted to make the re-election. Essentially, we have a re-election every hour. You can do it every block, but because of some time constraints on stuff that I didn't have fully time to try to figure out a solution for, you're capped. You're capped to where it will recompute and move people on the hour every hour. So that was my concern and what I wanted to do, because I like giving the community the power. Like, if someone's misbehaving, then, or they didn't, they say they're going to pay 5%, they're really paying, um, they're paying zero, or they're paying 1%. Like, you need to get them out of there as quickly as possible. So, real life elections don't work like that at all. It's years and years. So with this, 1 hour, I wanted to do it every block, but we just don't have time for the first version to do that. So I felt, 1 hour is a good compromise with that, because most of them are like 4 or 6 hours or more if you look. I like it that you can just change your vote, pretty quick, and show the people have the power, um, not the delegates, because you're the ones that put them in power in the first place. So I like that. Also, the rich get richer thing doesn't exactly work, because you might not actually have a lot of the coin, but you're popular, so you get voted in. So I kind of like that too. That's a nice change to that. Small coin holders, that's what it talks about. They can join together. And then here's an interesting one. I've talked about this a few times on Discord. When people have asked questions, or try to ask, like, how is this better, blah blah. Essentially what this does is, since the DPOPS, or DPOS, since it's based on the current circulating supply. So if we have, to make it really simple, we'll go back to the old version. We had 100 nodes. That meant that you needed 1% of the circulating supply at all times to guarantee yourself a buy-in, essentially, is what this is. Um, so when you get blocks, let's say you made, 5 million that month, the circulating supply is going to go up by, like, I don't know, maybe a billion or something like that. So then you're going to have to decide, well, to keep my rank exactly the same mathematically, I'm going to have to keep every single block I produce. So it gets really interesting here to me, because it's interesting to see what people will do, because, essentially, if you already have a lot and you got voted in, it's going to be hard for you to just keep taking more X cash, because you probably might want to sell some, or, so it becomes interesting, because then if you do that, then other people might gain on you, and you might go lower to the bottom or be ousted. So it'll be interesting to see how people play that one out. But it creates an incentive to hold more X cash, and even the people who have a lot of X cash, it produces an incentive to hold what they get. So that's another interesting one that stood out to me, and I've explained that a few times on Discord. But might be better explained in voice. That's why we're doing these videos. So, and then it can provide faster block times. That's not technically what we're doing, because we're doing it in a way where we don't need the faster block times, at least for the main net. But, you can. There's a lot of chains that are trying to get it like sub-second or a few seconds. Um, so that's totally not what we're doing. Again, we're doing something completely different and a different way of doing things here. But so disadvantages. There's it talks about, different different stuff and staking and all that. It's the forking thing can still occur, which is referred to as the nothing at stake problem. DPOS is basically delegated proof of stake. Delegated proof of stake. So essentially, that's the exact same thing. We still have the same problem with the all forks all over the place and all chains all over the place. Um, then it's a tiny bit less secure, in a sense that, since the top holders of the coin don't necessarily all become the block producers like proof of stake, there might not be that many coins that are staked, and then that might cause a problem. I'm not too worried about that one, but that's an issue. It's a good issue to bring up. Nodes is selected usually in a round robin. If you look, all the coins, almost all of them do this round robin thing. Neo, they all almost do this. I don't like that because this is something I definitely didn't like when really digging deep about this stuff, because it's like, if okay, like at 10 p.m. on Wednesday, I'm gonna mine a block. 10 p.m. on Thursday, like it seems dumb, and then also it seems really like easy to attack a network like that, because like, okay, I gotta attack this node, and then no one's gonna mine a block, or no one's gonna be able to send transactions for an hour or something like that. So, um, especially in our system, it would be worse because we're doing slower blocks. So it would be worse. So that's where the VRFs come in. We'll hit that in a minute. And then basically it can be more centralized, of course. And then obviously people need to vote, or otherwise the system's not going to work. So then delegated Byzantine fault taunts, and obviously this is going to be a little bit longer of a video than the 10-minute mark on this one. But this is a jam-packed video, lots of information in this video, and you guys get to see my PowerPoint that I had to create back in December. And then give to the team. And I think it took like 2 hours or 3 hours for me to say all this stuff. So we're not going to go through all the slides. This is towards the end. So then the DBFT, we know what that is essentially. So then what adds to it basically. Here's the part where it gets added to DPOPS, and if you notice, each one kind of is building on each other, right? Like we're getting better and better as we go on. This is how I put them out essentially. So the nothing at stake problem goes away. It goes away, as we know, because one person of that 50 or 100 is elected to create the block, and then everybody else sits back and says, okay, send me the block. And then I'm going to go through this block, and I'm going to verify everything about this block, and then I'm going to tell you, okay, it's valid, it's good, or no, some, doesn't make sense, it doesn't add up here, it doesn't add up there. And then we're going to vote on it, and everybody's going to vote, and then if 67% of us agree that this block is good, then you get paid. The block person gets paid, and if that block person, if 67% of us don't agree, then you're out. We're gonna re-pick someone else. So that basically, it's a consensus before the consensus, essentially. And what I like about that is because it kills basically the nothing at stake problem. It kills all the forks. It's basically an unforkable chain. Obviously, I mean by that is you can make copies of it, obviously, and you could still technically fork it, because if people don't like what we're doing, the community could create an Xcash Classic, or I don't know, something like that. But what it means is that the delegates, 67% of them have to go one way or the other. It's not like you can just pop out two different alt chains. So it's an unforkable blockchain. That really caught my attention. I really like that. Obviously, network traffic is the most, speed, all that, but we were doing it in C, so I was never really worried about that. To be honest, that system, you're gonna hear it here first. So that system that we built, I know we're running 50, but that system could probably do about 500 to 1,000, no problem. So yeah, so it was never really an issue. About because a lot of other coins like Neos and like .net, stuff like that, so it might be an issue. But with C, this is why we're taking a little bit of extra time. We're building this really good and really low level. Like I said, we could probably run 500 if we really wanted to on this thing, or 1,000. And then the round robin's still there. It gets more centralized, unfortunately, which we combat. And then users need to vote, and then it basically just goes into like, what are we gonna use, and then it explains like, okay, like I didn't like this, I didn't like that, blah blah blah, and then it just goes into different stuff, and then it basically just explains what we're going to use, and that we're going to take out the round robin approach. We're going to make it. We're going to use a thing invented in 2016 called verifiable random functions. It's relatively new, but it's basically a random number generator that's provable that that random number was created in a organized and fair manner. That's basically what it is. To boil it down, essentially, and then we pack all that crap in the block, and then that way anybody could download the block and they could actually go through the whole thing and verify it themselves by hand and all that. And then we just go over a bunch of other stuff. We're gonna go over that in the DPOPS explained video. But I just wanted to show, it's kind of interesting when you go through this and you write all this down, the pros, the cons. And it's just kind of interesting to go through all this because like I knew about all these before we started, building Xcache, but I didn't know about all these in detail like this. So it's kind of nice to just jot it down. It was a nice got to learn even more about this stuff. So that's it for this video. Hopefully you had fun seeing an internal PowerPoint, and you learned a lot about all of the consensus algorithms. The next video we're going to explain. I'm basically going to explain the DPOPS in my own words, and it's going to be explained pretty quickly. Like how the whole thing works. So, that would be a really good video because then people can watch it and kind of get an 80% concept of how this works. So thank you for watching this video.